Hi, I am Wendy with Drunken Aunt Wendy Paints, and we are going to do this fun kind of a fantasy thing this time. I'm going to call it Dandelion Fluff. There is no outline, so I'm going to walk you through just the real quick lines to draw this. It's not hard. Please don't stress. It is a very simple thing. I do have a scrap piece of watercolor paper off to the side so I can check how dark my mountain color is before I put it down. I color wise, we're going to use bleed proof white for our dandelion. We are using cerulean and rose. These are from a set that I got at Walmart. I don't have them in the Daniel Smith yet. So these are perfectly fine to use. And this just tells you use whatever paints you have. Don't stress out. So for the sky, it is the cerulean and then the rose and then the quinacridone gold. The mountains are mainly done in Moonglow. I and then I did these last two in Payne's Gray. I think I'm going to actually end up doing the last two in the Moonglow and just make sure it's nice and dark. Now, Moonglow is a granulating, so it's going to give you some fun textures. If you don't have Moonglow, you can do all of the mountains in the Payne's Gray or whatever dark color you have, or you can mix up a dark color with the blue, the pink, and the yellow. You have all the primary colors you need to mix up a dark color. Uh, I'm going the easy route. So let's go ahead and get started with the sketch aspect of this, and then we can move on to the painting. So I'm going to set this aside so I can see it, and then we'll talk about, or I'll show you what we need to do. Okay. I am using the Canson Montval watercolor block. I like these because they hold everything down really well. This is 140-pound cold press. I have already pre-taped it with washi tape. It's 7 millimeters or a quarter of an inch. It's whatever you have. If you want thicker borders, it's fine. If you don't want any borders, also fine. The borders just make it look fancy. Um, a little bit fancier than when you would normally do it. For some reason, peeling off and having those white borders makes it look very intentional. I have a pencil. It is an HB. I'm going to try to press fairly hard so you can see what I'm doing, and then I will be erasing. These are nice. They have little erasers on the backs of them, and it's a mechanical pencil, which I prefer. I also have a Micron pen in 05. These are waterproof, so I'm going to do a couple of things with the pen before I even put the paint on so that when I put the blue-proof white on, since it's opaque, it'll cover it up a little bit. I have another ballpoint pen because sometimes when you use the bleed-proof white, then you can't use pen details over top of it. So first we're going to do all of that. So let's get it sketched. It's not as hard as it looks. It's a very simple, we're going to do the background as just a wash. We're going to go quickly and add in some white with the bleed proof white to get the back layer of our puffball or our dandelion fluff. And then we're going to do the mountains, and we're going to just get progressively darker as we come further down the mountain range. And then we'll use our darkest colors and our pens to do some of the details here. And that's all there is to it. It's not super complicated. This is from a picture that I saw on Pixabay. There was no artist to reference. This was an illustration that I decided would be really cool as a watercolor painting. Okay, so let's sketch. First off, you want to decide where your puffball or your dandelion fluff is going to go. So the rule of thirds is you kind of want it in where a third of the way over and a third of the way down is where you're going to want to start it. So what I'm doing is I'm going to very lightly sketch out a circle. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, it's just a circle. And that's going to be the basis of my fluff. I will erase the outline of this after I put in these lines. So let's get a center spot. So we're just going to put in a center spot like this. And then we're going to draw lines out. And now these are going to be covered with your pen, so it's no big deal. And the Dandelion Fluff doesn't always go all the way around, but this is a fantasy, so we're doing it however we want. So we just want to make sure we get this out to the edges of our circle so we know where our circle is. And then we will move on from there. But I found if I leave this outline, then it shows through, and I didn't care for that. So let's find out where we want to put our basket. So the basket is just a U. It's a little squared off on the edges, just a little. Okay. And then you do a top to the basket. All right. So we want lines. Let's put the point where our lines go up. We'll just make a mark. And I have 3 on each side. Going to our Dandelion Fluff. I don't know why I'm having trouble with words today. And maybe this one comes in this way. Like we'll fix that. And the fun part, or at least the good part about doing the pencil drawing, is you can adjust it if you don't like how it was looking, and I didn't like how that looked. So I'm doing an inside one that like just goes to the bottom there, and then I want the outside one to go all the way up, and then I want this middle one to come about there. Get those lines out. Okay, and then you're going to want lines. Before you do that, you might want to go ahead and draw your person. It's real simple. We're just going to do an upside down U for the torso, and just an arm on the edge, a small circle for the head. If you want to give her a ponytail or him a ponytail, you can. It's getting lost a little in the images, so I don't think I want to do that this time. And now we just make very little skinny lines to our basket. Now in this one, I have a bunch of them, and I think you lose a little bit of the person in there because of all those lines. So I'm not going to do as many. Okay. Now, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and erase the outline of my circle. And if you are worried that you can't do a perfect circle, get something round and trace it. Just make sure it's the size that you want. I don't want to do a teeny tiny one. Okay, so now I know like my hand is catching some of the graphite and smearing it. It's okay because it will be painted over. All right, now we want to do our mountains. So I was in this one, I started from the back and I moved to the front, and then I had to erase all of the lines of when they overlap each other. So this time I'm going to do it from front to back and hopefully not have quite so wonky of a mountain because this one's quite wonky. I like the V shape, so I'm going to go up about a quarter of the paper, and I'm just going to bring like a V shape down, and that's one of the mountains. And then I'm going to do just a triangle, a little taller than this side. and just going off the edge of the paper. You can do as many layers of mountains as you want, or as few layers of mountains as you want. So now I'm going to bring a mountain, and the biggest thing I want is I want this to be kind of in a misty section of a mountain. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a little mountain. I don't like the way that one's shaped. And again, if you don't want to pre-prep this, you don't have to. I want it to come down behind this one a little bit and then pop up over here. Yeah, that makes me happier. Again, your thing, your mountains, do what you want. So let's do another layer of a mountain. I'm going to have this one start up high and then come down behind this one. And I want it to come up here so we're in a misty spot. But they don't have to go up so high. They can be shorter. They're just mountains in the distance, so you can do them however you want. Now on mine, I have one more layer of mountains in the back, and I'm trying to make sure I don't make it exactly halfway because I just don't like it when things are exactly halfway. So I'm going to try to pull this one. This last layer is going to come from behind this mountain and then go down here and then maybe pop up a little and then down, behind, and then come up there. It is however you want to do your mountains. You can do them any way that you want, and you don't even you can add another layer of mountains right in here. It's actually looking kind of open, so I think we're going to do just another layer right there. These are still in front, but this is one that just comes right in here. And they don't have to go all the way across. Like, we could have not added this one. Actually, let's get rid of that one. I know it's there in the original, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be an exact copy every time. You can change it to fit your mood. The last thing that I do is when I was prepping this, I added, I don't know why I keep trying to put the cap on the cap of the pencil. I tried to add my little dandelion fluffs. Now I did 7 of them because odd numbers make me happy. So what I do for these is I do a dot and then a dot. I line it up and then I do 2 lines to the sides. And I'm doing this in my Micron pen because it is waterproof. And then you want these to go up and down and all over the place. And they're going to be a little bigger here, closer to your puff, because they're slowly moving away. And so the one out here is going to be really small. So let's go ahead and just do this one. And try not to make them all in a straight line. Try to move them up and down a little bit. If you don't feel comfortable going straight with a pen, use your pencil. It's fine. But you want to make sure you vary the sizes of them, because if they're all the same size, they're going to all look like they're coming right at you. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do one that's coming up here. That's 5. And just kind of feel where they need to go. I think I want 1 here. Well, I guess it's going there. And then do one here. So they're floating across. And what we're going to do when we do our background is we're going to do a little bit of spatter so it looks like there's even more back there while the paint is still wet. So you want to get your bleed-proof white and you want to make sure it's got nice amount of water in it. Another thing, if you want, is you can go ahead and do the lines of your blue now. So again, this paint, these are waterproof. So then we can erase all of these pencil lines. So they won't show up later. And if they overlap a little, that's fine. And these are really light, so use really light pressure or get a smaller pen if you have one. And we just put those on, and I'm going to go ahead and outline the basket. I will probably use a very dark color to do the basket. I think I tried to do it in pen on the original, and it didn't work out exactly the way I wanted it to. So we will use pen. All right, we're going to give that a second for the pen to dry. So you don't want to erase on wet pen, it'll smear. And we just come in. And if you have a kneadable eraser, that's even better. Be careful not to erase your little person. If you do, you can always add it back. This just gets rid of some of these pencil lines. And I did the very, very fancy technique of just blowing on it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have an oval wash brush. I also have a flat wash brush, but for this, I like the oval because it doesn't leave me harsh lines. Like if you did the cotton grass and we were taking it up like this one doesn't get as sharp. Okay, so I'm going to pre-wet my paints. I have the blue sitting here because it doesn't fit in this palette. The pink is down here. And then the Q gold is here. That one's Moonglow. And that one is the Payne's Gray. And I'm going to go ahead and do some of the Sodalite in case I decide I want to use it. But I may not. Okay. Now on this one, if you notice what I did is I take it really bright and then I like tone it down and then I move it across. That's really literally what we're going to do is we're going to get the paint. We're going to take it on right over top of where those mountains are. That's fine. It looks like the sun is glowing on them way out in the distance. And I think that's fantastic. So we're just going to go across and then get some water and pull it up and then get another color or add in. And we're just going to keep doing it. We're going to try to keep the blues up near the top. And when they mix a little purple and then down here, we want to be really careful we don't end up with green because the yellow and blue make green. So we want to be careful with the blues. Okay, I'm just telling you that ahead of time, but this is going to be fun and easy, so you should be excited. I have my towel to get off excess paint and everything. I'm going to get some water into my bleed-proof white. Just make sure it's nice and activated and wet. Okay, and now we go. If you're using these little half pans like this, sometimes your brushes don't fit super well. It's okay. Just get some on there. Probably get some water on your brush too. That might help. All right. So I'm going to go all the way across, but I'm going to start on this side so the color is more intensified over here. And I am going to just pick a spot, and if it covers mountains, that's fine. Okay, and now I'm getting water, dabbing it on my paper towel, and I have to make sure it goes down in these areas where there is no mountain. And we're just going to smooth that out a little bit. See how it just fades. If you get too much color on your brush, you can always just dab it on your paper towel. Take that up and trying to keep a lot of the color over on this side. Smooth that out a little. Because when I first put it down, I didn't get it in between that section. So I will need to make sure I get it there. Okay. So now I'm going to get the pink. And I'm just going to put it straight on. It's going to blend with this yellow. We can pull it down. We can pull it up. Let's get some more. Make it a little bit less. And this is Rose from that set I got from Walmart. Okay, I'm going to get some more of the pink. There we go. I'm taking it all the way up. I'm going to put the blue over top of it. That's going to give us some bluey, purpley things. If you want, you can add some lines right in here to bring it down some. I don't know that I like it that much, but it tones it down a little bit. Okay, now we're getting the cerulean. And just start dropping that in up here at the top where it's nice and wet still. Get some more paint. And I didn't put clouds in this because I didn't want them to compete with the little pieces over here. I want to bring this down. Okay, that's a little bright. That's okay. That's what we have a big brush for. And then we just pull it out. And we're just going to smooth out this sky a little. Maybe a little darker up here and down in here. The sky is always darkest at the top of your paintings. If you look at a picture, the sky is always dark at the top. And I'm just pulling it across to just smooth it out. If it's still wet, you can move it around a little bit. I'm going to dry this brush off. I'm getting my round 10 and I'm getting it in here. I'm getting really, really, really wet white. We're just going to do a couple spatters up here. And they should tone down. And that's just going to be the dusty ones going off to the edge. Now, the other thing you want to do now while it's wet and while we have some white is we're just going to start putting in dots in our dandelion. As you can see, this is really opaque, so it will cover up your pen lines, which is why I didn't do the pen in the center yet. And this is just really a random dotting. The fluffs are going to go out in all directions. So there's going to be some in the back. There's going to be some up here in the front. And they don't have to be perfect because this is the other side, the side that we can't see. But putting this down first helps give us some dimension. And just be careful not to cover up everything. So you want your skies to still peek through. And if you want, you can go ahead and put a little dot in the center of each one of these. We'll darken those up a little bit, but this will fuzz them if it's still wet. And if you decide these are too bright when it's all dry, we can add the lines and make them fluff balls. Okay? So while this is drying up in here, we're going to move down into the mountains. And you'll find that's what this card is for. So we're going to go into the Moonglow. That's Moonglow's full strength, or almost full strength. What we want is we want about 4 shades of the Moonglow. So we want to really lighten it up. And you lighten up watercolor with water. So I think that's as light as I want to go. This is a granulating, so you're going to get some blues and some purples with it. It's totally cool. So I'm going, and if I get one of the closer mountains in it, it's fine. But I'm going to do this last row of mountains back here. And I'm just outlining the shape of those mountains. If you feel like you've lost a little bit of the paint, just get a little bit more and just check your color. You can see it's totally granulating here. Like we're getting the blues. It's awesome. If you don't feel comfortable with a larger brush with the 6, feel free to switch to or this is a 10. If you don't feel comfortable with the 10, feel free to switch to a smaller brush that you feel like you have more control over. Okay, I'm going to take this all the way down on this one. And if you want to add in that piece of mountain that goes up there, that's fine. But as you can see, because this is a nice transparent color, the yellow pokes through, which is absolutely gorgeous. Now we can't move on to the next layer of mountains until this layer dries. And I have no patience. So I have a heat gun and I am going to use this. I've got to let it dry some before I hit it with the heat gun. So you see where it's puddled right there? I can also use the puddles to my advantage and kind of move them around a little. Just to add some fun little texture in these mountains. Moonglow goes a little bit purpley, a little bit blue. So these are definitely like purple mountain majesties going on back here. All right, I think I'm outside of the puddle range. So what I do is I take my heat gun. And as you saw, I was kind of chasing the puddles a little. So I've got a little dark spots. That's totally cool. What we're going to do next is we're going to do the next layer of mountains. We're going to hit the color really at the top, and then we're going to pull down with water towards the bottom. And that's what gives it this kind of misty aspect. Okay, so you're going to put the color here and then pull it down and let it fade out a little bit. I'm still using my 10, but again, you can use any one that you want. If you feel more comfortable with a 6, go ahead. I wouldn't recommend going all the way to your 2 at this point in time. I think it's too early for that. So that's the color we had before. We're going to get more paint. We're going to put it down. I want that. Oh, no, I think I want that. That's about the darkest I want that. So if I dip this in water and rub the edge off, and then I put it down, you'll see it gets lighter. And dip it in water again, and it gets lighter still. So that's what we're doing here is we're taking a color and we're making it gradually lighter to do the back, or gradually darker, however you want to phrase it. Let's go with this. And then we have this just to test to see how dark it is. You can also make puddles, but I want to be able to just go straight into the paint. So I'm doing the tip of the mountain. You just want to make sure it's darker than the one you did before. And you want your lines to be somewhat even or not. A little bit more. I know that looks really dark. It'll be okay. I promise. I promise. Okay, so now you're going to take your brush, dip it in the water, knock it off the side a little, get rid of some of that water that's in it, and start pulling this down, especially here because we're losing our girl or our person. Okay, and so over here, this one is not differentiating itself from that one, so it needs to be a little bit darker. You just get a little bit more paint. It's definitely wet enough, so it's not going to be a big deal. And put it on, and then move it around. We don't want super dark on this one or we'll lose our person, but we do need it to differentiate itself from the layer behind it. And over here, again, just a little bit darker. And if you don't think so, then don't. Again, it's fine. It's not going to bother me. Okay, and then this one comes down in between these mountains. But you still get a little bit of that glow of the sun even on these further back ones because we painted that underneath. And I think that's really a cool, fun effect. And then I'm just dabbing in just a little bit of misty stuff. Now, we've got 2 more layers of background mountains and then our 2 front layers. So what I'm going to do, blast this with a heat gun, dry this off. I'm going to do my front 2 ones, and then I can better gauge how I need to do the back 2 ones and how much water I need to add to the color. Watercolor is all about darks and lights. So now that that's dried, because watercolor dries lighter too, we get a nice look at this is definitely darker, and we look like we have some mist coming up in between the mountaintops, which is really cool. So we're gonna take the 10 again. We're gonna go straight in to the Moonglow, and it's gonna be like it's almost gonna feel like sticky and harder to move because it is so wet or so thick, and that's okay. So we're gonna just follow that outline. And I want these front mountains to be really, really dark. I guess we're going to go up over that one just a little to give it a little bit of dimension. Another reason I like to move paint with the blocks is they move, and when it's taped down to the table, it doesn't move. I'm getting more paint. And this is nice and dark. Also, if you wanted to, you could put teeny tiny trees on the mountain. I'm not going to, but you can if you'd like. No one will be mad at you. Do whatever makes you happy in your little fantasy world where you can ride in a hot air balloon made out of dandelion fluff. So I'm making sure that my strokes basically follow the form of the mountain because it's all going to dry a little differently. And I don't want it to look super flat. I know I didn't right there, but that was because I was fixing something. But if you keep going over it, you're going to pull paint up unless you get more on your brush. I wouldn't mess with them too much. They are just kind of background. I'm going to dry them before I hit these next two layers just to make sure I don't pull the colors and everything. Okay. So now I'm going to do this layer of mountain. So it needs to be darker than this, but lighter than this. And we're going to try to, again, make the tops dark and then kind of let it fade out towards the bottoms of the mountains. So I've got water on my brush and I'm dipping it in the water too to tone it down a little. And there we go. I think I like how that is. I can always put another layer on if I think it's too light. Yeah, I think it's probably going to be too light. Let's get a little bit more. There we go. Again, I'm doing the top part of these mountains. I'm leaving the bottoms for now. And then I have this one back here. a little bit more color. Okay, now you're going to get your brush wet, tap it off on the side, dab it on your paper towel, and then just start pulling in this to make it look a little misty. So you want to work kind of quickly. You don't have to be like a speed demon painter. But you want to try to avoid like those hard lines that I'm getting right there. And if you want to do this in sections, that's also fine. Like one mountain at a time. I just like to do them all together. Okay, so we've lost some of the definition in the dark as we pulled it out. That happens. So while it's still wet, we just put some more up in there and let it pull down. Let the water do its job. The water make blooms. And this one, I kind of want it to have a few little ridges. So I'm just adding those. We'll do the same with this one. Okay. I think I can make that just a little bit more, a little bit darker. I'm just going to put some more in. It's going to spread. And that's okay. Move things around a little if you like. All right, we got to let that dry or we can make it dry. While I have it though, I think what I'm going to do is watercolor is transparent. If we put another coat on these, I'm going to make them a little darker. We're going to avoid getting too close to that edge there, because that'll cause blooms, or it might cause really cool things. Whatever you want. And if you don't like these as purple mountains, you can make rolling green hills. You do all sorts of fun things. Whatever makes you happy, it is your project. I'm just going to darken these up by adding a second layer. This is called glazing. Usually you glaze in a different color, but because watercolor is transparent, you put another layer over it or glaze another layer over it, then you get more intensity of your pigment. And we have our two mountains that are very obviously in the front. So I'm going to make all this dry. We'll do this last layer of mountains. Okay, so you see how here we have like kind of a pink and then a little bit of purple. That's because this Moonglow is a granulating color. So it gives you some of that like pinks and purples when it dries, which is why I like to use it. It's a very dimensional color. We have this last little set of mountains to do. I'm going to let them be a little misty at the bottom, but probably not as misty as this set. So once again, it's your Moonglow. Now here we want to make sure, take it all the way to the edge of that mountain. This is definitely not dark enough. But that's okay. This is the very last little set of mountains. And I want to take it up and over right there where I left a white spot. If it doesn't exactly follow your outline, that's okay. Get some more dark up in here. Now you have wet paint. You can pick this up and move it around and let it kind of blend for you. I'm trying to do this as best as I can so you can see what I'm doing. But if you see, all of that was hanging out in the tape is just moving up. I'm going to roll it this way a little bit. And there we go. We have our mountain range. Now you can go through and see, there's like a little piece of white showing right there. I don't want that. It's going to darken this one up again. And that's another thing I like about this Montval is it can handle a lot of water. Okay. We're going to call that section done. And we're going to try not to put our hand in it. So let's blow dry it so that I don't end up sticking my hand in it. Okay. Now with our pen. Now I have had trouble. The first time I did this, the pen doesn't really like to work on the bleed proof white. If you have that problem with your Micron pen, that's why we have a different pen. And that's just a basic black pen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to make my center section. I'm just going to color it in with my black pen. And then I'm going to just start doing light lines for the fluff. Going all the way around. You can do these heavy, you can do them light, you can do them however makes you happy. You want to make sure you're getting up in these little sections up in here. We're going to cover this again with another layer of the bleed proof white, but we got to make sure that these are there and they show. And it's just going around a circle. Okay, and another thing that I did when I did this is I did some little, the lines, the dot, and then the 2 lines just sporadically in here. Some of them all the way up here. So it looks like the little fluffs that are going to come out. Okay, this pen really is not liking this. It's something about the bleed proof white just does not, and my Micron pens do not get along. But this one, it should be fine. It works. Doesn't everybody just use the ball of their hand to test things? So I'm just doing a dot and a line, 2 lines on each side. and I'm spreading them out. I'm doing more than I think I need so that they really will, that they'll show through. I know it looks a little messy now, but a lot of this is going to get covered up. But they're going to come out in all angles and directions. So there's going to be some that are pointing straight at you, and there's going to be some that are pointing way over here to the side. So we're just trying to give the impression that these are coming out in all different directions, which is why sometimes we're going into the flower, sometimes we're coming out. And don't be too particular. Try not to make them all exactly the same. Try to make sure you're just kind of filling spaces where you think they need to go. And again, don't cover up all the sky that's behind there. I'm going to redo that line a little. And I'm going to go ahead and I think this one needs one. These two back here are fine. This one needs one. It's going the wrong direction. It's got confused. And that's okay. Am I super thrilled with that one? No, not really. And that I don't know how many I have now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But I feel like I need one right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and put one right there. 10, 11. It just got a little bit too messy right there because of the drops. That's okay. All right, I am going to grab my 10 and I'm going to do some bleed proof white again. Now, we're not going to be as heavy handed as we were before because now the paint paper is dry. So this is going to really, really show. So you just want to just kind of dot in some spots. And if it's going completely over top other things, that's fine. I'm kind of using this little section of my brush and just pushing it down and then getting a little bit more. And I'm going right over other spots. I'm leaving stuff going through, just making sure this looks like a really nice, full dandelion fluff. And I'm trying to vary the sizes and wow, I got real high pitched on that. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to vary the sizes and the placement, and I still want to make sure the pink shows through. Um, I don't think this is something that you could really do with a masking fluid just because I don't think your colors or you're going to be able to have the fuzziness of the bleed proof white fading. Okay, so I'm going to leave that alone. I've got a couple of these here that I want to give them a little bit more, but I'm going to go ahead and switch to my 2 on that. So I have a round 2. I'm going to get that wet. And you can also use a white gel pen if you're afraid of doing this. So I am connecting those little lines out because they kind of just fly on the fluff. A little bit more. You need a center and then a floof. Center and a floof. And then these need floofs. These were like, I cannot live without you. I must go with you, as they floofed themselves right on out. Okay, we got one thing left to do, and that is our basket and our person. So I got the Sodalite Genuine prepped, so let's go ahead and use that because it is the darkest color I have. I don't have a black. I do have Sodalite Genuine. So I'm using my 2, and I'm going to put the little person's torso in. I'm being very, very delicate. And then the arm that's on the side of the gondola. These are actually, I think, called gondolas. Then the head. And then I'm going to put in our gondola or basket or whatever the heck it's called. I think it's called a gondola. I could be wrong. And my lines are not dark enough, so we are re-darkening those. You can do that with your pen too if you'd like. But here we have our fantastic adventurer out flying in their Dandelion Fluff balloon, which I think is super fun. Let's hit this just because I'm about to take the tape off and remove it, and I don't want to get paint all over myself. Also, watercolor dries lighter than when you put it on, so I wanted to see if it was going to still be dark enough to be seen. It got lost a little. I wish I'd put the basket a little further down. All things that you can do when you want to change it. If you want to change it, you can add more fluff going off to the side. You can add birds if you want, but I'm going to call this one done. And I'm going to take off the tape. This is my favorite part. I mean, I love painting it too, but tape removal is always so fun. So let's take off the tape. And let's put the lid on our bleed proof white. If you don't have bleed proof white, I guess I never say this. White gouache works, white acrylic paint works, white gel pens work. You don't have to have bleed proof white. There we go. Okay, let's peel this one off. And my pile of tape that I keep over here on my table. I like the washi tape because it doesn't seem to eat my paper as bad as some of the painter's tapes that I've tried to use. So I use the washi tape. I usually get fairly clean lines with it. This one looks really good. I don't think I had much bleeding. It's not perfectly cornered right there. I'm going to have to be okay with that. Okay. So the next thing you want to do is you want to sign it. I am calling this one Dandelion Fluff. Using my initials. A lot of times I will actually sign in the painting because it is so much harder for people who steal your artwork online to get rid of that. Just a tidbit of advice, a thought from me to you. I don't know if anybody else has had that problem. I have a Banicula print that people have just stolen. Okay, so this one opens in the back here. And so we're going to just slice it. Again, you want to use a palette knife and not an X-Acto blade because you could cut the paper underneath and then you've just wasted a piece of paper. And I understand it is paper, but I don't like it when I waste things. So there we go. It's been removed. I mean, look at this lovely sky up in here. And that was just from taking the brush in a sideways motion. So if you were doing like a cloudy sky that had a bunch of really cool clouds, you want to do 1 point perspective and take it down at a V or find a vanishing point. But they're going to be smaller here and they're going to get bigger up in here for your big sky. But I think this is really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed painting this with me. Let's see how we do. Yeah, no, they're not exactly the same, but they never are. All right, so this one is, we'll call this a wrap. Next week for Easter, we're going to go super easy and super simple, and we're going to make some bunny butts. And they're going to have little heart-shaped butts. We're just going to sketch on bunnies. You're going to have a whole bunch of bunnies. You can have just a few bunnies. I may add more bunnies. I may move them further down. We're going to see what happens. So we're just going to do a sky and some grass and some bunnies, and this will be a real quick painting. But I hope you guys enjoyed painting this with me, and we'll see you next time. Bye.